So what if you could build an AI agent that goes out and researches your competitor's online reputation and sends that back to you in a report? So I've built a tool like this, an automation like this in Gumloop. So I'm just going to run this flow and we can see what's going on in the background here. So it's taking some information that I have, some companies that I've put in a Google Sheet here, and it's going to use Gumloop's new AI web research node, which is basically having an AI agent at your fingertips that can go search the web. And you can see it's already done, and it's going to perform this research on these two, let's say, competitor websites in this example, and it's going to generate a report for me that I can then click and get a nice PDF summary here of the overall sentiment of the company, the positive themes, what positive things people are saying about it, what negative things people are saying about it, the reasoning, and then it's even going to cite the sources that it's basing this off of. So it went out, it searched X, it searched Reddit, YouTube, some blog posts, and it's going to give me an overall sentiment, a competitor research sentiment on Cursor, on Windsurf in this example. So we're going to be using Gumloop's brand new AI web research agent. I'm going to show you how to set it up. It's super simple and really fun to do. All right, so I'm a huge fan of Gumloop. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I find they have the most user-friendly interface for building these AI automations for non-coders. So that's why I prefer to use it. And they recently announced a new kind of AI agent node that goes out and searches the internet based on a prompt, right? So it's having an AI agent go do things on the internet and come back and give you that information. And so I want to demo the flow first that I've created, and then we'll build this step by step. So for me, it starts in a Google Sheet. So in this example, again, pretend that I'm going to create, or the business in this fictitious example is one of those AI software coding tools, okay? And I know Windsurf's out there. I know that Cursor's out there. So in this example, I want to do a little sentiment analysis on these tools. What are users saying about Windsurf and Cursor on Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube? What are the good things they're saying about them? What are the bad things they're saying about them? So if I were to build a competing tool, this is just a fake example. If I were to build a competing tool, I want to get a customer sentiment analysis on these companies. Okay, so the way that we're going to trigger this is just a Google Sheet here, and it's very simple. You can make this a lot more complex, but I'm just listing two examples here. Again, Cursor and Windsurf. So I have their websites here, and then the output is going to go in this column here. So it starts with a Google Sheet reader. All right, then we're going to use the new node from Gumloop, the AI web research. Okay, so it performs web research tasks with structured dynamic inputs and outputs. So I'm going to prompt it to, given the website URL here, perform in-depth research regarding user feedback of these companies. Do in-depth research on YouTube, Twitter and X, Reddit, and in blog posts. Provide a comprehensive summary of the overall sentiment, then highlight positive themes and negative themes thoroughly, right? So you want to give it a good prompt based on the input here, which are the company websites. And we'll do this step by step, but it's going to generate the inputs and the outputs for you. So you can see it's based on my prompt, it's generating these outputs, okay? And then I'm doing a bunch of join list operations and combined text, which we'll get into a little bit later, but that's kind of boring. And then I'm just using an Ask AI to format the output properly, because then I'm going to create a PDF document of the output. And then I'm going to send that back to Google Sheets, and I'm also going to send it back to Slack. So the result will be a research report, a competitor research report for all of these competitor companies, right? So if you were launching a new business, a new software, a new product, and you wanted to get a user sentiment analysis on the other players in your space, this would be a really useful automation. All right, so let's build this from scratch. So I'm inside of Gumloop. I got a blank canvas here. I'm going to add my first node. So again, the way I'm building this is we're going to have a spreadsheet of competitors. So I'm going to go to Google Sheets and do a Google Sheet reader. Okay, so Gumloop can start reading my Google Sheet. Now you can select the file manually. For this demo, I'm just going to use the link itself. So let me do a share link from Google Sheets. I'm going to plug that in here. Okay, so Google Sheets is now going to fetch that link. I only have one sheet, which is down here, so we're on the correct sheet. And you can see it's going to automatically generate the columns and the output. Okay, so we're starting with this Google Sheet reader. All right, now we're going to add that AI web research, node. So I'm going to drag that down to the canvas here as well. And before we prompt it, see how there's no inputs or outputs yet? That's because it's kind of waiting for the prompt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste from my clipboard the prompt that I already have. So I'm going to paste in a prompt here that says, given the website of an AI IDE company, which is what Cursor and Windsurf are, perform in-depth research regarding user feedback on these companies. Do in-depth research on YouTube videos, social media mentions via Twitter and Reddit, and in blog posts. Then provide a comprehensive summary of the overall sentiment, then highlight the positive themes and negative themes thoroughly. Now, since it has the prompts, what I'm going to do is hit generate inputs and outputs. And what you're going to see happen is this node will fire an input at the top, and then it has all of the outputs here, right? So it knows it needs that company website, okay? And we have that from the Google Sheet here. So I'm going to map the company website URL from the Google Sheet output into the company website input for the AI web research node. And you can see it automatically kind of generated this placeholder here of the company website in as part of my prompt here. So it's taking the prompt and then it's saying, do it for this website. And it's going to pull in those websites from the sheet. And it also generated all of these outputs as well, based on the prompt, right? So I asked for the overall summary, positive and negative themes. It's going to pull in the citations because it's going to go out on the web and research all of these different Twitter threads and Reddit threads, and then it's going to provide its reasoning. All right, so eventually we're going to want to combine all of this output because these are all separate outputs, and we want this to be in one report. So we're going to have to combine it all into one output to feed to our PDF. And so for that, we're going to use a combine text. And before this, I'm going to show you, we're going to have to actually put in some more nodes before this. And let me kind of explain why. So what the combined text node is looking for is kind of a single list of text. So you can see the overall sentiment is a list and the reasoning is a list. So it can accept those two inputs as is. And this is kind of one of my things on Gumloop. I wish there wasn't the need to manipulate all of this text and all of these lists. I hope they can improve this later on. But you'll see we have three outputs here: the positive themes, the negative themes, and the citations that are lists of lists. Okay, so if I try to drag this list of list into an input that's only expecting a single list, it's going to throw me an error here. So what we need to do before we can combine all of this output into one combined text node, we need to convert these list of lists into single lists. And to do that, we're going to use the join list items. So again, I'm going to need three of these, right? Because we have three lists of lists. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that I want to join these on a new line. Okay, so if the text is going horizontal, it will join those on a new line. So I'm going to turn this on. And then we need three of these, right? Because there's three lists of lists. So I'm going to duplicate this once here and then duplicate it twice over here. Again, this is kind of one thing with Gumloop. I hope they can kind of streamline going forward, not to have to do all of this kind of character and text manipulation. So next what I want to do is drag, again, these 3 lists of lists. So the first one is the positive themes. So I'm going to drag that here to a list. So it's going to create a single list that I can then feed to combine text. I'll rename this to positive themes. Okay, and now we need to do the same thing with negative themes. So I'm going to drag that output to this input. I can rename this just so you can keep track of everything. Negative themes. And then the final one are the citations, right? Or the references. Like where is the AI getting this information? And I'm going to rename this one to citations. All right. So we have now, you can see their output is now a single list here, which is exactly what we need for the input here. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is put more inputs here. Because again, we're combining 5 different outputs. So the AI is going to produce 5 different pieces of information, which means when we want to join this all together into one output, that I need 5 inputs here. So it defaults to 2, but I can just click this a couple more times. And now I've got 5 inputs to put the outputs into. All right, so the first input that I want is the overall sentiment, like the summary of the research. And so I can grab, since that is just a list in the AI web search output, I can just grab that one directly from the output without creating a joined list and just dragging that here into the input. All right, so this is going to start to build out our report. It just requires a lot of, again, list and text manipulation. Now, the second thing that I want in my report are the positive themes, and that's why I labeled this here. So we have to grab it from the join list items, and I'm going to put that as input 2. Now, the third part of my report, I want to see the negative themes. So I'm going to drag the join text here and put it into input 3. Now, the fourth thing that I want to see is the reasoning, which is, how did they decide on this? And again, the reasoning is just a list up here. We didn't have to do anything with it. We didn't have to join it. So that means I can grab it directly into input 4. And then finally, the last thing on my report, I want the citations. Okay, so we've got that over here. So I'm going to grab that join text and drag it into input 5 there. Okay, next we need to build out the format here, right? What do we want the structure to look like? Okay, and we can just type this out like this. So I'm going to call this the beginning of our report, overall sentiment. Okay, so that's the summary, right? Now, if you remember, we dragged the overall sentiment summary into input 1. So you can see how these corresponding inputs are now here as these little tags that I can drag into here. So I'm just going to drag input 1 directly under the overall sentiment. And then we can just continue building out our report. So again, I want to do positive, let me zoom in a little bit, positive themes next, which is input number 2. So again, I just drag that directly below like that, and then we can keep going. So negative themes, which is input 3. And then reasoning, which is going to be input 4. And then citations, which is going to be input 5. So it's going to take all of this, all of these lists that we've created, and it's going to combine this into one output. So if I test this, then I'm going to hit run. And again, you can test at every step. I just don't want to slow down the video. If you want to test every step, just hit run to make sure you're not running into any errors. So you can see it's reading the Google Sheet. Now, the AI web research will take a minute because I've got 2 domains on there. And again, it's an AI web agent that's going out and searching for these companies on different platforms. So let me speed this up. All right, so you can see that took 1.5 minutes to do all of that research. And what you can do if you want is to click in to any of these inputs and outputs here. So you can see it's taking in the company websites, and then it's producing the overall summaries here for both Cursor and Windsurf. And then it's going to feed it into all of our lists and combine text. And you can see what it's going to look like after it combines the text. Okay, so this is for Cursor, and you can see how it's formatting it like that. So I just wanted to show you, again, you can test your flow at any point along your build just by running that run button up there. All right, now that we have our combined text, we do need to add another node here to help us format it. This is another thing I wish could kind of just be streamlined in Gumloop, to not have to ask an AI node to format it how we like it. But this is kind of how it is right now, because I want this formatted in Markdown so it looks nice in our PDF report. So what I'm adding here is an Ask AI node. And for the context, I'm going to just drag this combined text onto the context so it has the actual output, okay, from the report. And then for the prompt, which I have on my clipboard, all I'm saying here is format the provided content into Markdown with bullets, output just valid Markdown and nothing else. Do not wrap the Markdown in backticks, which are those little ticks. And then for your AI model, I kind of always default to 4.0 mini. So I'm going to use that as the model and then just hit save. All right, next, I want to generate a PDF report. I mean, you could do this any way you want. You could do this in Google Drive, but I thought it would be nice to just have this create a report for each, create a PDF for each report. So I'm going to go search the nodes and look for the generate file node. And I'm going to drag this down. And what we're going to do here is we're going to drag the output of our Ask AI, which is the formatted report, into the file contents. Okay. Then for file type, I'm going to select PDF. I'm going to write this as Markdown. I'm going to output a link. Okay. And then all of our settings look good there. And then we're just going to feed this output next back to our Google Sheet reader and also into Slack. All right. So I'm going to look for the Google Sheet writer. Okay. We're going to write a new column. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the link, although you could map it directly if you wanted to. So it's going to refresh that and it's going to pull in the columns. And now the way that my sheet is set up, right? So I have the company website in column A. So obviously I want the PDF documents written to column B, which is document. One thing that I forgot, sorry, in this setting down here, this is actually important. In writer mode, you can see now it's trying to add new rows, but we actually want to write it to the column instead. So you need to change that to write to column. Okay, and now your output here, the generate file URL, the list will match a list. Okay, so I can drag the generated file URL to the document column, and it's going to write to the column there. All right, now the final part is that I want this also to be sent to me in Slack. So I'm going to search for a Slack node here. I'm going to do a message sender. Okay, and obviously you need to have your Slack connected. You need to have your Google connected. I think you guys know that. So I've got Slack hooked up here. A couple things we need to do is pick the right channel. For this one, I believe it's 05. And I'm going to drag the generated file URL also to the message. And there's no bot option here, which is great. And that looks pretty good. All right, so let's recap real quickly what we've done. So we've set up our Google Sheet reader here, and these are the websites that we want to research. Okay, this is what the AI web research node is going to be searching for. All right, so that's kind of how it's all starting. Then we're feeding those URLs into the AI web research node, and we're giving it a very specific prompt to go out and look for user feedback on these companies on Twitter, on Reddit, on blog posts, on YouTube, and provide a summary with specific themes, positive and negative. All right. So we're giving it a very specific prompt, and then it's going to output, or it's going to produce a bunch of outputs. And again, in Gumloop right now, we need to do a lot of text manipulation with these join list items and the combined text. just so it kind of all flows nicely and neatly. Next, into our Ask AI node here, this is just to help format it properly how we want it to come out on the report. Then we're going to send that output to the generate file node. So we're going to ask it to create a PDF document of the report, of all of the research. And then we're going to send that PDF document back to our Google Sheet and also in a Slack message. Okay, so that's the setup. And what I'm going to do up here is hit run. And again, this is going to take probably a minute and a half. So again, it's starting the Google Sheet reader, and you can see, right, it's loading the Google Sheet ID. That was much faster than last time. I wonder if it's cached. I wonder if the answers are cached, because that happened a lot faster than the last one. So you can see that it's added the document to our Google Sheets. Okay. So I can click that, and now you can see our Google Sheet has been updated with these files. And it's also going to tell me that it sent it to Slack. So if I go into that Slack channel, and I've tested this a bunch of times before, you can see 10:30 that those two documents are right here. So I can click from Slack, or I can click from Google Sheets. And when I click into the cursor file, it's going to download that file. Now I can open it, and you can see my PDF report. So the overall sentiment on Cursor, overall, the user feedback is largely positive, praising its developer experience and productivity boosts. Users have cited seamless integration and useful features. Area for improvements include bugs and UI changes. And then it gives me a little bullet list here of negative and positive themes, the reasoning, and then the citations. Well, this is new. It actually hyperlinked the citations. It wasn't doing that before. So I can open up this Reddit link, and this is going to show me, hey, I researched this thread on Reddit, okay? And here's a blog that it reviewed, and I can open this. Okay, so is Cursor AI any good? So it's showing me the websites that it went out and researched. And again, that's the Cursor result. Let's see what the Windsurf one looks like. It's going to download it. I have to open it. Largely positive, positive themes, negative themes, the reasoning. And again, it's going to tell us exactly where it found all of these resources. So that's the AI web research node in Gumloop. It has a ton of potential. I just wanted to set this up as a very quick demo to show you what it's capable of. Let me know what you want to see in the next video, and like and subscribe to the channel.